Neutra lost, but he was very unwilling to lose. Obviously, he still has a more powerful returning blade, but before he could use it, he was directly cut in half by the bullhead Ichigo. He knows, injuries of this magnitude, even with the skill high-speed regeneration, it won't help. And at this moment, the severed upper body fell to the ground. Unwillingly, Neutra raised his hand, held Naruto Ichigo's right foot, and struggled. I cannot be reconciled. Obviously you can continue to fight. Returning to the blade, yes, as long as I return to the blade, my injuries will be. I didn't finish my sentence. The next moment, there was a bang. A head was trampled, and Ichigo slowly raised his left foot, and blood mixed with white turbidity fell from the sole of the shoe. Roar. Feel the breath of the enemy completely die. Naruto Ichigo raised his head again in satisfaction, and roared loudly. This scene, it sent a chill down the spine of the cheering crowd. Something is wrong. Something is too wrong. At this moment, the bullhead Ichigo, unlike Ichigo, is more like pure virtual. This discovery immediately made the whole group feel uneasy. Got up. Ichigo, what's wrong with you?
Hey, what's going on with this kid? Don't be kidding. Ichigo's aura is stronger than that of this Aaronkar. What happened?
The voice fell. Ichigo, the bull's head roaring in the distance. As if he heard something, he suddenly stopped roaring, and turned to look at the group of people. Suddenly, everyone subconsciously held their breath. I'm afraid that one of my actions will provoke this former companion, who is somewhat unrecognizable by everyone. But never thought, in the face of these former companions. Naruto Ichigo, but he has no sympathy. I saw the red eyes behind his mask flicker slightly, and then the Ryotsu on his body converged again. But this time the gathering place, but it is the center of the two sharp horns of the bullhead mask. The red Ryotsu spun and gathered to form a red sphere, exuding a terrifying aura. Sero. This is the advanced performance power that can only be used by Manos Grande. But at this moment, the red Sero used by the bullhead Ichigo is a high-level Sero that is one level higher than the black Sero of Espada. This sudden scene. Immediately, everyone's expressions changed. Unexpectedly, after killing the Aaronkar, Ichigo's next target turned out to be himself. Hey, Ichigo, wake up. Kurosaki-san, it's us, aren't we companions? Damn it. Ichigo must have lost his mind. Orihime, Sado, Uryu, everyone spread out. What is the situation of this condensed Ryotsu? It is so terrifying. No, this level of attack cannot be taken. But when everyone panicked, Ichigo's Sero has already fully charged at this time. Immediately, eyes fixed on everyone. The next moment, the red Sero, which had been charged for a long time, showed its power to the world for the first time. Boom. The overwhelming red light, in that instant, it shot out from the tip of the bull's horn, and bombarded everyone accurately and quickly. This moment, the entire sky is covered in blood red. The tyrannical spiritual power of the red Sero swept madly towards the distance, dragging out a red beam of light to chase after him. Powerful and tyrannical Ryotsu instantly wiped out all the buildings encountered along the way, leaving only a cylindrical hollow in place. This moment, Long Gui and his party were all dumbfounded. Hey, are you playing for real? Aren't we on the same team? Why are you attacking your teammates? This moment, everyone is dumbfounded. Unexpectedly, the bullhead Ichigo would actually shoot himself. As for running away, no kidding. Under the support of the huge Ryotsu, the red Sero was so fast that it fell in front of everyone in just an instant. But at the moment when everyone was desperate, suddenly, a Shunpo appeared in front of everyone, a lazy figure dressed in a deadly costume and holding a Zanpakuto. This sudden appearance, it made everyone's eyes tremble, and they didn't understand why someone appeared in front of them. But the person who came, put his hand into his chest, made a foolish look, and joked. Yay, I didn't expect this stupid son to have an accident. I have no choice but to let my handsome dad act as the savior once. After all, he simply lifted the Zanpakuto and said loudly, "Burn it, Injetsu." The sound fell, and a flame passed over the knife. And at this moment, Red Sero is finally here. But face the oncoming Red Sero. The person who came just condensed his own Ryotsu on the body of the sword, and then, Tuzhi swung it forward. Crescent. Skychong. A red slash fused with flames flew out. Accurately hit the attacking Red Sero, split it in two, and flew across the crowd towards the distant sky. So far, the death crisis is easily resolved. However, before Long Gui and his party came back to their senses, the person who came was Shunpo again, who disappeared from the spot, and when he appeared, he was already beside Ichigo Tao Tao. Boom. Slash away with a knife. Naruto Ichigo subconsciously wanted to fight back, but a layer of black lines suddenly appeared on his body, and his movements were forced to stop. Pooh. The two sharp corners of the bullhead Ichigo were chopped off. Suddenly, as if he had been severely injured, the mask on the bullhead Ichigo's head was broken little by little, revealing Ichigo's bewildered expression. And seeing Ichigo like this, the visitor raised a lazy smile and joked. You are still so careless in doing things. Sure enough, if you want to become an adult, you are still far behind. And far away Long Gui finally saw the appearance of the visitor clearly. This discovery made her widen her eyes suddenly and exclaimed. Uncle Yixin. Boom. Dozens of blue icicles stand between the sky and the earth. Suddenly, they suddenly shrank together, restraining the blonde figure holding the huge sword with shark cheek pattern and bursting into ferocious Ryotsu. Millennium. Ice prison. Toshiro breathed heavily in his mouth. At this time, his state is not good, it can even be said to be extremely bad. The left half of the body was directly cut off by the opponent due to a mistake, and it has been banned by Han Bing at this time. Ryotsu also plummeted, gives people a feeling that will disappear at any time. Because of this, he pinned his hopes on this 1,000-year-old ice prison, hoping to imprison his opponent's actions. So that he drags until Natsuki defeats enemies. Or, with other pairs coming to support, take down this Irankar. But unfortunately, with a crackling sound, cracks began to appear in the Tiantian ice prison, and then, under Toshiro's gaze, it shattered. Immediately, the sky filled with ice chips turned into waterfalls. Under the control of Holly Bell, attacked Toshiro in reverse. Damn it, can't even trap her with this trick. Toshiro retreated with the little energy left. But the attack speed is extremely fast. He only had to dodge for a few seconds before being overtaken by the incoming attack, watching helplessly as he was about to be hit. Suddenly, at this moment, a voice sounded. Captain Shinigami, it looks like you need some help. 81 of Bakudo splitting void. The voice fell. Don't wait for Toshiro to react. I saw that a transparent barrier suddenly appeared in front of me, and the next moment, the oncoming waterfall was blocked. Toshiro will look back. A tall figure with a green hat. I don't know when it appeared behind him. Judging from his raised right hand, the splitting void just now was released by him. Now, not far away in the sky, the dark blue and blue Ryotsu collide. Just the leaked Ryotsu split the clouds and stained them with these two similar but different colors. You fight back. Let me see the strength of number one. I saw that Natsuki and Stark were playing back and forth. But the former gritted his teeth a little bit, and in the successive battles, he noticed that Stark's political power has dropped. Even, he occasionally leans forward, deliberately showing flaws, let yourself be put on a knife or two. This inexplicable move gave Natsuki an inexplicable feeling, as if the other party was deliberately attracting his attention. Suddenly, after Stark was cut again, but he suddenly stopped what he was doing, and then jumped back a few times to widen the distance between him and Natsuki, and looked over. Feel sorry. That's the end of this fight. The mission we came here this time has been completed, and it's time to go back. These words made Natsuki frown. He is fine, how did he complete the task? But when he was puzzled, he suddenly saw a figure in a cloak appearing behind Stark. This moment, Natsuki's breath changes instantly. The faint blue Ryotsu burst out uncontrollably. Stark. Lilynette. An angry voice came out of Sha Duo's mouth bit by bit. He was surprised, there should be Lilynette next to Stark. But after rushing over, he didn't see it, so he didn't think that Lilynette didn't come to this world this time. Never thought, Lilynette not only came to this world. Even while he was drinking Stark to fight, he secretly did something big. I saw. Lilynette wears a strange cloak, it blinded Natsuki's Ryotsu sense, but more importantly, she held an unconscious Rukia tightly in her arms. And at this moment, Lilynette hugged Rukia and moved closer to Stark. Stark, mission accomplished. Now we can go back and sleep well. To know, although her strength is not strong. Far inferior to the same body Stark, but no matter what, it is also a split body of a Vasto Lord level Manos Grande. With her strength, against Rukia who is above the vice captain level and below the captain level, it is easy to catch. For this, Stark's eyes became lazy again. He reached out and rubbed Lilynette's head, with a smile on the corner of his mouth, and praised. Good job, Lilynette. The task arranged by Aizen this time has 2 points in total. 1. Bring Rukia back to Hueco Mundo 2. Test Natsuki's strength, whether it is worth letting him continue to pay attention to it. And now, he has tested Natsuki. Whether it is strength or talent, it is undoubtedly necessary to pay attention to it. As for Rukia, the capture has now been successfully completed and it's just a matter of getting back to Hueco Mundo. So, Stark's expression suddenly became serious. I won't hold back, human boy. Boom. Ryotsu burst out again, although he was crushing towards the real tree. This time, it is Ryotsu that belongs entirely to Vasto Lord Irankar. Destroyed Ryotsu gathered in the chest, familiar moves, bring a completely different sense of oppression. This is. Natsuki's eyes widened, he felt the threat of death this time. Ryotsu compressed onto Zanpakuto, trying to fend off Sero attacks from Stark. Boom. Sero came exceptionally quickly. The moment he blocked it, he was already in front of him, and then it exploded suddenly. Caught off guard, Natsuki was blown back hundreds of meters. Next moment, Natsuki regained his footing in midair. But in the distance, the figures of Stark and Lilynette disappeared, followed by Rukia who was kidnapped by Lilynette. Call. Natsuki let out a puff of hot air. But then he suddenly opened his eyes again, and his eyes were full of anger. Aizen. Suya Palace Aizen sits alone on that throne. Supporting the chin with one hand, eyes slightly closed, as if thinking about something. The rest of the espadas stood directly below him according to the serial number, left and right, which looked like the captain's meeting in the Soul Society. But it is different from the captain's meeting where casual communication occurs. At this time, all the espadas in the room kept quiet, unwilling, and daring to disturb the figure on the throne. Suddenly, with a creaking sound, the door of the room slowly opened from the outside to the inside, attracting everyone's attention. I saw Ichimaru Jin walked in from outside the door. Feeling the eyes of everyone, he teased and said with a smile. Aizen-sama, Espada, who went on a mission in this world, is back. Yes? Then let them come in 323. Aizen slowly opened his eyes and looked over. I'm a little curious. Natsuki, who has embraced the beautiful woman, is obsessed with beauty and gives up his practice, or does he not forget his original intention and continue to move forward? Sound falls, Ichimaru Jin still responded with a smile. Only this time, his smile seemed to be a bit wicked. Got it. Master Aizen, then, I'll let them in. Immediately, Ichimaru Jin turned and left. Not long after, he re-entered the room with 4 figures. This scene made some espada raise his eyebrows slightly. 4 people went there, but according to the mission requirements, when they came back, there should be 5 people. Is this a mission failure? But if you take a closer look, all the returning blades are breathless. At this time, there was a weak figure that had never been seen among the 4 people, but the 5th-ranked companion was nowhere to be seen. So, did you throw your life away in this world? Suddenly, Aizen on the throne spoke. His voice is as gentle as it was in Soul Society. But in this gentleness, there is an irresistible confidence. Welcome back, Stark, Lilynette, Holly Bell. Speaking of which, looking at Rukia, he smiled lightly and said. Long time no see, Kuchiki. Rukia's body trembled, and at this moment, she felt that all the Arankars in the room were looking at her. This strong sense of oppression, she, whose strength is not yet at the captain's level, feels unable to hold on. But the next moment, seeing Aizen get up slowly. Unexpectedly, a Shunpo appeared in front of Rukia. While blocking those sightlines, he also looked down at her from a high position. After a while, he chuckled softly and said. Rukia Kuchiki. In such a short period of time, Ryotsu has increased by 30%. Although there is a reason why Ryotsu is too low, I still have to praise your talent. Since that's the case, you can continue to develop here. Presumably, Natsuki-kun will be very happy to see you grow in strength. Aizen's voice was still gentle. But amidst this gentleness, there is still a way that is not allowed to be opposed. Rukia was unconvinced and wanted to refuse, but just when he opened his mouth, he suddenly felt a strong Ryotsu crushing him. This Ryotsu made her pale. There is no thought of resistance in my mind. Quite a while, reluctantly accepted, I see. Hearing this, Aizen smiled more gently. But facing this gentle smile, Rukia became more and more nervous. Aware of this, Aizen didn't care, raised his eyes slightly, and glanced at Stark, Holly Bell, and the rest of the espadas. Gentlemen, you have worked hard on this mission. As for the vacant number 5, I will reselect and replenish it. With his words, it's a conclusion to Neutra's death. After all, In the absence of special circumstances, the serial number will only change after a Espada dies or is defeated by other Arankars. Neutra this time it is to go to the present world to perform a mission. And the accompanying ones are number 1 and number 3 with higher serial numbers than him. If the possibility of being defeated by other Arankars is directly ruled out, then only being killed by someone is eligible. Cut. Killed by humans. That guy Neutra, what a waste. Grimjow of number 6, secretly complaining in disdain. But I am a little bit concerned about the position of number 5. Being promoted to number 5 is also pretty good. Of course, he is definitely not the only one who has this idea. But among the few others who want to fight for number 5, he is undoubtedly the 10 with the greatest chance of winning. And at this time, Stark didn't care about that. As number 1, he doesn't have to care about anyone except Aizen. Thinking of today's battle, he just wanted to feel that after the report, he would find a place to sleep lazily for the whole day. Master Aizen, by observing and fighting with Natsuki. In my opinion, this is an enemy that needs to be watched and kept on the lookout. Stark doesn't talk much, but let's talk about the process of fighting Natsuki today. The fact that Ryotsu is almost equal to him alone is enough to surpass 90% of the people present. Not to mention Natsuki's sharp swordsmanship. And the gift of being able to use the abilities of others Zanpakuto. All this is enough to show that Natsuki is an enemy who needs to pay attention, and pay attention at all times. Been debriefed by Stark. Aizen's expression didn't change at all though. But those who knew him well could see his joy in his breath at this time. I see. In this case, the task of Rukia and observing Natsuki is assigned to Ulquiorra. Yes, I understand, Master Aizen. Ulquiorra stepped out from the crowd of Espada, came to Aizen, and took over the task. Karakura town in Natsuki's apartment. At this moment, the group looked at Natsuki worriedly. Just now, everyone knows that Rukia was kidnapped by the enemy. And it was under Natsuki's nose that Rukia was forcibly taken away, which made everyone worry about Natsuki's situation. But Natsuki suddenly opened his eyes and said coldly, I am going to attack the virtual circle and save Rukia. Who is in favor and who is against? Ready to attack Hueco Mundo. Who's in favor of saving Rukia in this way? Who's against? Into the eyes of the crowd, Natsuki said with a cold face. Suddenly, the whole room fell into deathly silence, and everyone stared at Natsuki with wide eyes. Even Long Gui, who has the best relationship with Natsuki, can't help but tremble. Natsuki, what did you just say? You're going to attack Hueco Mundo to save Rukia. Wen Yan, Orihime, who has a softer personality. The expression on his face turned pale, and he looked at Natsuki in amazement. Perhaps it was the experience of her big brother being degraded into Shu, but in fact, she has always been afraid of Shu in her heart. Now, Natsuki has to go to Hueco Mundo to save people. This aroused the fear in her heart a little. Summer. Shaw trees. He whispered his friend's name in a low voice. She wanted to dissuade him, but the image of getting along with Rukia in the past few months appeared in her mind. Take classes together, eat together, shop together. Even, after school, he specially taught himself how to use spiritual power. This scene emerged in her mind, gradually changing her original thoughts, and finally, she made a firm decision. I agree to rescue Rukia. Maybe my strength is not very strong, but I think, with the ability to heal, I can always help. The voice fell. Everyone in the room cast surprised glances. Did not think of facing Natsuki's terrifying speech. The first to respond, but the softest character used Orihime. At this moment, Long Gui, Sado, and Ishida Uryu, who were also on good terms, fell silent. As for Natsuki, but he looked at Orihime even more surprised. Knowing the plot, he knows more about Inoue Orihime than ordinary people, so he naturally knows the fear in her heart. But never expected. This time, Shibaoran embarked on the opposite path of writing the plot. From the original rescued object, she changed to a member of the rescue team, but for her joining, Natsuki naturally agrees with both hands. At least, with Orihime by my side, life safety is guaranteed. Thinking of this, Natsuki walked up to Orihime, looked at the girl with long orange hair in front of him, and sincerely thanked. Orihime, thank you so much this time. When Rukia is rescued, she and I will come to our door to thank you in person. Sound falls. Some people in the room couldn't take it anymore. At this time, except for Kurosaki Ichigo who was taken away by Kurosaki Isshin, everyone involved in the Arankar incident is at Natsuki's home. And these people, Of course Shinigami from Soul Society is also included. Toshiro had been healed by Orihime at this time, and when he heard that Natsuki was really going to attack Hueco Mundo and rescue Rukia, his face immediately turned serious. Natsuki, wait a minute. The attack on Hueco Mundo, I think, should be reported to the captain first. You have to know, Rukia as a Shinigami, just like this was forcibly taken away by Urankar, Gotei Shisanban will not just sit idly by. What's more, she's still. Kuchiki. Sound falls. Everyone immediately understood what he meant. Even, the angry Natsuki came back to his senses. Rukia Kuchiki before Rukia's name, there is also the surname Kuchiki. Although only a righteous girl, but even as a foster daughter, she is also a member of the Kuchiki family. The Kuchiki family will certainly not sit back and let Rukia get caught. Now, the oppression from the four nobles alone forced Seireiti to respond. However, calm down Natsuki, but it's not just Rukia's identity that comes to mind. To know, Aizen already slapped Seireiti in the face last time he defected. Now that he dares to take Rukia away by force, it is equivalent to him slapping Seireiti in the face again. If you do not respond this time, so, will Aizen slap him in the face for the third time, the fourth time? In this situation, the first one I can't help but fear is Soul Society. Based on this idea, Natsuki temporarily put aside the idea of finding Urahara Kazuki to attack Hueco Mundo. And things develop, sure enough, as Natsuki and Toshiro predicted. Just 10 minutes later, I received a communication from the Soul Society. And the communication object, it was Yamamoto Genyanagi Shigekuni who personally communicated with everyone. Knowing that Urankar, who was dispatched this time, was somewhat stronger than Toshiro and Natsuki, Mr. Yamamoto fell silent. Toshiro's strength, although because of age, Ryotsu is a little lacking. But it is also a regular captain-level character, but even he can't defeat the enemy, so the enemy is also the captain-level strength at the last time. This means that, the enemy that appeared this time, is its strength enough to compete with the captain of the Seireiti team. After a long time, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni looked serious and said, Natsuki boy, answer me seriously, whether you have the ability to kill the Urankar you met today. This question, there are many things included. Not only to ask whether Natsuki's own strength is enough to kill Stark. On the one hand, it also alludes to Ryujin Jaka's ability to kill Stark. Certainly. Others may not hear it. Natsuki understood what Yamamoto Uanyanagi Shigekuni meant. Grinning at the corner of his mouth, he showed a confident smile, looked at the old man on the big screen, and laughed wildly. If it weren't for the scruples Toshiro, today, I killed that Urankar on the spot. The moment the voice falls, Toshiro, who was standing quietly at the side, looked at Natsuki in a dazed manner, wondering why he should care about himself. But Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni understood. With the terrifying temperature of Ryujin Jaka, I am afraid that it will affect the battle of Toshiro, so I did not use Ryujin Jaka this time. But, strong enough to kill Urankar, that's enough. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni suddenly put a cane in his hand, looked at Natsuki, and said coldly. Attack the Hueco Mundo plan. I, Yamamoto Uanyanagi Shigekuni, agree. In the name of the General Captain, immediately dispatch the captains of the 4th, 6th, 11th, and 12th teams to help. Soul Society Seireiti Gotei 13th Division 1st Division. In the empty captain's room, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni stood in the middle of the room holding a cane. In front of him, the remaining captains of the Gotei 13th Division lined up. Master Shan, are you sure you want to launch an attack on Hueco Mundo at this time? I'm not ready yet. In the queue Kyoraku Shunsui watch Yamamoto Gen Ryusai Shigekuni. Opposite to him agreeing to Natsuki's plan to attack Hueco Mundo, after all, the decision was too sudden. First, several captains go to Hueco Mundo to support. During this period, if the respective teams encounter any problems, how should they deal with them? You know, each fan team has 500 people, if these 500 people are not managed well, the Lingting will be in chaos. And also, if there are gangsters during this period. What should I do if I take advantage of the lack of Soul Society strength? In addition, there are team affairs, personnel transfer, material preparation and other issues that need to be resolved. Now such a sudden announcement. This made it too late for the captain who went to support Hueco Mundo to prepare. I know. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni spoke slowly. His gaze also looked towards his own apprentice, his eyes were firm, and it was obvious that he had already made a decision. Jashiro through the Great Resurrection Gallery. The real purpose of Aizen has been confirmed, it is Wang Jian. Wang Jian has always been in the hands of the old man. He knew that he could not take it away from me, so he found Wang Jian's manufacturing process. The voice fell, all the captains present were dumbfounded. As Shinigami captains, they naturally know what Wang Jian is. Wang Jian, the key to open the space of the Spirit King. Only with this key can you go to the Spirit King Palace where the Spirit King is. Since Aizen's real purpose is Wang Jian. So, does he want to kill the Spirit King and replace him? But don't want to. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni's next sentence made everyone's eyes wide open. Wang Jian's manufacturing is very simple. Millions of human souls and a reborn land within a radius of one soul. And the heavy spirit land refers to the area with the highest Ryotsu in the present world, that is, Karakura town where Natsuki and others live. Sanyi, Jashiro, you are not joking. Kyoraku Shunsui stepped out of the queue in shock, and asked back in disbelief. The number of millions of souls shocked him. If Aizen really made a king key as he wished, the price would be too terrifying. But unfortunately, just after he asked back, Jashiro Yukitaki walked out of the queue helplessly, and confirmed to the shocked captains. No kidding. According to the records of Daiwang Huishu Gallery, Wang Jian's production is like this. Wen Yan, Yunohan Aretsu, suddenly said, so, in order to prevent Aizen from making the king key at the expense of Karakura town, the captain intends to keep the fight within Hueco Mundo. Here, Byakuya Kuchiki, who had been silent all this time, also spoke. If you think about it that way, the damage to the Soul Society in the present world will indeed be reduced to the minimum. But it's okay to fight for a short period of time. The Soul Society's background can support it, but if it goes on for a long time, I'm afraid it will be a big burden. Kuretsuchi Mayuri also weighed in on the discussion. Enter Hueco Mundo's technology, there is still a technology development bureau. But if we want to fight for a long time, I need at least 1 month to update the equipment. A month? Although it's a bit long, but I have to wait, it's a pain. Rukia. Kyoraku Shunsui lowered the brim of his hat, thinking he had chosen the most suitable choice for the moment. But don't want to, attracts the attention of Byakuya Kuchiki. Immediately, he smiled embarrassedly and changed his previous statement, but this also caused other captains to participate in the discussion. I think, maybe we can get Rukia out first. But at the moment, we don't know the full power of Aizen. That's right, the only enemy forces we know so far are Aizen, Ichimaru Jin, and today's 3 captain-level Arankar. Don't forget, half a month ago, thousands of low-level Arankars attacked Karakura town, which is enough to show the huge power that Aizen has in Hueco Mundo. Then before the attack starts, we need to send a team to Hueco Mundo to find out the enemy's strength. This point, the second team may need to pay attention. Boom. Listen to the sound that keeps ringing in the ear. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni suddenly shook his cane vigorously, and everyone fell silent. Quiet. Short-term combat or long-term combat. We don't need to consider these things at the moment. What we need to do now is to rescue Rukia Kuchiki, who was captured by Arankar. Before the meeting started, I have promised Natsuki in the name of the General Captain that I will send the captains of the 4th, 6th, 11th, and 12th divisions to help. The voice fell. The breaths of the captains who were named changed slightly. But it quickly returned to its original appearance, but this time, the eyes that looked at Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni became serious. Since the promise was made in the name of the captain, then, the matter has been settled, there is no need to continue arguing, just follow the promise and go to the present world to enter Hueco Mundo with Makoto. Thinking like this, everyone walked out of the queue, waiting for the next dispatch. For this, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni shook his cane again, and said in a deep voice. I declare. The 4 captains of the 4th, 6th, 11th, and 12th divisions immediately carry out the handover of team affairs, and go to the present world in an hour to meet Natsuki. Sound falls, the faces of the 4 changed slightly, but they did not respond. Yes, Captain Yamamoto. So far, this concludes the captain's meeting. But looking at the captains who left together, Yamamoto Yuanryasai Shigekuni's thoughts gradually became deviated. A chance for fame. I've put it in front of you, can you seize this opportunity, Sha Shu? Night falls. Karakura town, Yurihara store basement space. A strange-looking device was placed in the open space of the underground space. Natsuki and his team lined up in front of this strange device one by one, as if waiting for something. Suddenly, Yurihara Kazuki stepped in front of the crowd. He glanced at the time, then clapped his hands to attract everyone's attention and reminded everyone, it is now the arrival time sent by Soul Society, please wait for a while. But the moment his voice fell, a simple and unsophisticated world transmitting gate appeared in front of everyone. Arrived. Everyone said silently in their hearts. Under people's watchful eyes, this ancient door slowly opened to both sides, and several hell butterflies flew out from it. Immediately, a sound of wild laughter resounded. Is this the real world? That's right, that's it, I already feel Natsuki's Ryatsu. The moment the sound falls, boom! A berserk breath spread out from the world-piercing gate. Kenpachi, this guy. Really, the date hasn't changed. Feel the breath of Ryatsu emanating from the world-transmitting gate. Natsuki raised his brows lightly, feeling a headache for Zaraki Kenpachi's character, as usual, no matter how he fights. But now, everyone is ready to attack Hueco Mundo. He doesn't have the time, nor the energy to spare, to fight Kenpachi. Suddenly, just at this time, another gentle voice resounded inside the world-transmitting gate. Ah la la, Captain Zaraki, please don't block the door of the portal, we can't get out. With this voice sounded, Zaraki Kenpachi comes out from inside out. TCH, I know, women are troublesome, and they like to chatter. Listening to this complaining voice, the corners of the mouths of several women in the crowd twitched, but they silently closed their mouths again, thinking of the opponent's strength. And at this moment, with Zaraki Kenpachi taking the lead out of the crossing gate. Behind him, one after another came out, one after another. Kusajishi Yachiru, Unohana Retsu, Katetsu Izan, Bukuya Kuchiki, and Kuretsuchi Mayuri and Nirvana Yumi. Ha ha ha. Xiao Shushu, Hai, Xiaolong, Orihime, and Little Baldhead. 8,000 streams lie on Zaraki Kenpachi's shoulders. After coming out, I greeted everyone excitedly when I saw everyone. The titles in the past few days were quite normal, until the last sentence of Little Bald Head. Everyone couldn't help but look at Madarame Akaku. Crunch. I saw the veins on his forehead popping out. Obviously, a deep love for this title. Asshole Vice Captain, I told you not to call him such a disgusting nickname. Pity. Yachiryu completely ignores a corner. Looking at Natsuki, jumping directly from Zaraki Kenpachi's shoulder, a Shunpo came to him, looked up, innocently smiled. Little Tree. A GN is looking forward to fighting with you again. After saving little Lulu this time, please fight Ah GN again. Natsuki squatted down. His eyes were on the same level as Yachinlu's, and he said seriously. Don't worry, after saving Rukia this time, I will seriously fight Kenpachi again. Zaraki Kenpachi stood quietly aside. He didn't interrupt at will, but just watched the two of them talk seriously. But after Natsuki responded, a smile of excitement and anticipation appeared on the corner of his mouth. Then it settled, round tree. This time, I won't let you find another chance to run away. And at this time, see the completion of the dialogue between the three. Bukuya Kuchiki walked up to Natsuki with a cold expression on his face. This is how you protect Rukia, let her be captured by the enemy, and even ask us to help rescue her. Previously, he delivered Rukia to Natsuki himself. Unexpectedly, in just over half a month, he was forcibly taken away by Irankar. This made him, the eldest brother, feel a little dissatisfied with Natsuki, the guy who stole his own cabbage. For this, Natsuki made no excuses, just seriously looking at Bukuya Kuchiki, with apologies. Feel sorry. This time I was careless, I didn't notice that there is still an enemy. After saving Rukia this time, I will personally go to Kuchiki's house to apologize to you. The voice fell. Bukuya Kuchiki's eyes flickered slightly. After a while, he finally forgave Natsuki and stepped aside silently. But everyone, you can feel the uncontrollable fighting spirit in him. Obviously, although he didn't continue to blame Natsuki, he would never let go of Irankar who attacked and captured Rukia. But at this moment, a mocking voice suddenly sounded from the world-transmitting gate, causing everyone to look over subconsciously. Oh, it's not because of that research Shinigami. And Yurihara Kazuki who defected from the Soul Society. Your Ryatsu is as disgusting as ever. Except for Natsuki, Ichigo and others are full of doubts. After so much experience, they already knew that Yurihara Kazuki was framed by Aizen, but why did Kuretsuchi Mayuri still say that? But Yurihara Kazuki didn't care. Instead, he suddenly opened the small folding fan, covered his chin, and said with a light smile. Oops. Isn't this the second-generation project? I didn't expect you to participate in this attack plan. When I see you, I think of the time we worked together 100 years ago. HMPH, I don't want to see you. Kuretsuchi Mayuri has a cold expression and a displeased expression. Seeing the inexplicable way the two get along with each other, everyone was stunned. I don't understand. Kuretsuchi Mayuri is so aggressive, why Yurihara Kazuki is so indifferent. Suddenly, when everyone is confused, Unohana Retsu stood up and smiled lightly. Everyone. Shouldn't it be time to reminisce about the past? Don't forget Rukia Kuchiki, still waiting to be rescued. Hueco Mundo Forest of Manos Grande. A black cavity appeared out of thin air, and then a dozen figures jumped out of it. Subconsciously. The moment it landed, everyone looked around vigilantly. Is this the Hueco Mundo? How does it feel? It seems to be some kind of forest. Could it be the transmission location of the clogs and hats, and it was set wrongly like last time? Looking at the surrounding environment, Kurosaki Ichigo scratched his head and said puzzledly. After hearing this, Natsuki agreed to look at the surrounding environment, got the answer in his heart, and responded. This is the Hueco Mundo. Didn't you feel it, those empty breaths nearby? According to this environment, and the dense virtual atmosphere everywhere, I think it should have transported us to the forest of Manos Grande. The voice fell. It was not Ichigo who responded first. Instead, it was Kuretsuchi Mayuri who had almost no intersection with Natsuki. He tilted his head, rubbed his chin with one hand, and said thoughtfully. I see. This is the forest of Manos Grande. What a nice place. The aura here is obviously stronger than the ones we usually encounter. It's a good place to find experimental materials. Talking room. He turned his head to look at Nianmang again, and ordered. You mark the location here, and after I develop the black cavity in the future, I can come here often to find experimental materials. Yes, Lord Ni. Ni Yinmang stepped out from the side, and took out a machine token. Zaraki Kenpachi, Byakuya Kuchiki, and Unohana Retsu looked at different positions respectively. Zaraki Kenpachi was the first to laugh out loud. Interesting, it seems that we have just arrived, and someone is already watching us. This feeling seems to be quite bragging. Byakuya Kuchiki looked calm, but his words were different. 10 kilometers to the south, there is Ryotsu of Shinigami. Although I don't know why Shinigami appears here, maybe I can get some information from him. Unohana Retsu chuckled and said, in that case. Then trouble the two captains. Captain Zaraki, please destroy the surrounding shu, and Captain Kuchiki invites the Shinigami from the south. Hear the words, neither objected. The next moment, each uses Shunpo to disappear from the spot. But now, since entering Hueco Mundo, it only takes 5 seconds, which is far beyond the mobility of ordinary people, which makes Natsuki and his group slightly stunned. Natsuki is reacting. This should be the true level of Captain Shinigami. When I was in the Soul Society last time, most of the battles were based on hard power, but the quality of these Shinigami captains was not reflected at all. As for Ichigo and his party, they were stunned. It was completely unexpected that Zaraki Kenpachi and Byakuya Kuchiki would honestly follow the words of the female captain. For a while, something beyond their expectations. However, Shinigami captains have their own arrangements, and Natsuki and the others don't want to be idle. Natsuki, Ichigo, Sato, Uryu, and Ryuki joined the team to eliminate Shu. While warming up, also understand in advance the strength of the virtual power in the virtual circle. As for Inoue Orihime, because of her special ability, she was favored by Unohana Retsu and taught him some healing skills. The remaining Shinigami members, it is responsible for the guard work to prevent the fish that escaped the net from rushing over. 5 minutes later, Natsuki et al. Have solved all the voids with a radius of 3 kilometers. Of course, most of the bugs were solved by Natsuki and Zaraki Kenpachi, and Natsuki and others only cleaned up some bugs at the initial point. Suddenly, everyone who was on standby looked to the south at the same time. I can feel that there are 2 Ryotsu belonging to Shinigami constantly approaching here, and suddenly, they all feel emotional. Is this what Captain Kuchiki said, Shinigami Ryotsu? I thought it was an accident just now, but I didn't expect that there is a Shinigami here. This Ryotsu feeling, Vice Captain level, no, just Ryotsu has reached the Captain level, who is it? Natsuki raised his eyebrows slightly. He remembered that there was another Shinigami visitor in the forest of Manos Grande. Aceto, who strayed into Hueco Mundo hundreds of years ago, has never left Shinigami. And, because it's been fighting for hundreds of years. His strength is so terrifying that he doesn't even need to liberate the Zanpakuto C-class void. So, if he was Shikai, he would even understand it. Its strength has at least reached the level of Byakuya Kuchiki. At the same time, while Natsuki was thinking about Asito's strength, two figures suddenly appeared in front of everyone. One of them was naturally Byakuya Kuchiki wearing the captain's haori. Another, his attire is amazing. This is a Shinigami wearing a mask of a sheep bone, wearing a Shiba costume, and wearing a cape with 5 skulls. Nah. Ah Jien. Who is this person? This cloak on him is so handsome, I want one too. Before everyone could speak, Yachiryu, who was lying on Zaraki Kenpachi, jumped down with bright eyes, and a Shunpo came in front of Asito. You are. Look at the logo of the 11th squad on Yachiryu's arm. A flash of reminiscence appeared on Asito's face. The 11th team, I don't know whether his name is still in the team list. Hear the inquiry. With a smile on his face, Kusajishi Yachiru introduced himself. 8,000 streams. My name is Kusajishi Yachiru, and I'm the vice captain of Team 11. Hear the words take off the false mask of sheep bones on the face. Asito showed his handsome face and introduced himself. Asito, my name is Asito, the 3rd seat of Kenpachi of the 7th generation. 7th generation project. The 3 seats of Kenpachi. All eyes turn to Asito. Especially Madarame Akaku, his eyes are full of speed. It never occurred to me that I, the 3rd seat of the 11th generation, could meet the 3rd seat of the 7th generation. This has to be said to be a coincidence. And at this moment, after introducing myself to everyone, Asito's eyes turned to Unohana Retsu, who was watching everything quietly, with a slight flicker in his eyes. He did not expect, after hundreds of years, I still meet acquaintances. Thinking of this, he walked towards Unohana Retsu, bowed and said, Captain Unajiwa, I haven't seen you for hundreds of years, but you are still as magnificent as ever. Unohana Retsu looked up. Looking at Asito's appearance, looking for his information in his 1,000-year memory, and at this moment. Listen to Asito's words. Ichigo and his group, even Byakuya Kuchiki were slightly taken aback. Hundreds of years? No way, he's already a few hundred. The era of Kenpachi in the 7th generation, it must have been 500 years ago. Hundreds of years, this is really an old man, and his age is about the same as my grandfather. At the same time Unohana Retsu recalls memories of Kenpachi from 7th generation. An immature figure appeared in his mind, and his pupils flickered involuntarily. Looking at the figure with a cold face in front of him, he said. I remembered. You are Asito next to Kenpachi. When I heard that you never showed up after conquering Hueco Mundo, everyone thought you were dead, but I didn't expect. Unohana Retsu is not stupid. Asito has survived in the virtual circle for so many years. It is impossible not to know the way to leave, but he still chose to stay, and even Ryotsu has improved dozens of times. Just thinking a little bit, she figured everything out. For hundreds of years, Asito must have been fighting the ghosts in the forest of Manos Grande. Think of this, she looked at Asito with admiration in her eyes, and said with emotion. For hundreds of years, you have worked hard. Unfortunately, I am a Shinigami, it is my duty to kill Shu. Asito's eyes were flat. If he cared about these things, he would have returned to Soul Society long ago. Unohana Retsu nodded slightly. Satisfied with Asito's answer, but the time was tight, she asked directly. Asito. You must have learned the relevant information from Captain Kuchiki. Yes, Captain Unohana. Asito nodded and confirmed. He has learned of the Aizen Rebellion and the Urankar invasion of the realm. At the same time, it can be regarded as understanding why there are so many upgraded ghosts in the Manos Grande forest recently. But think about yourself, to fulfill duty and companion's last wish, kill hundreds of years in the forest of Manos Grande. In Soul Society, a traitor like Aizen appeared, and I couldn't help but feel disgusted and even resentful towards him. The other side get Asito's response. Unohana Retsu stopped talking nonsense and asked directly. We are teleported to the forest of Manos Grande. How do we get out of here, and how do we go to the virtual night side where we are? Previously, Natsuki and others also captured several virtual animals for questioning. But most Shu would rather die than cooperate, and only got key information from some Shu. Composed of Espada, Suya Palace and so on. But how to get out of here has not yet been answered. I know where I left. As for how to get to the Void Knight Palace, if it refers to the Palace of Hueco Mundo in recent works. It's easy. Go directly to that palace all the way. The voice fell. Unohana Retsu narrowed her eyes slightly. She was judging the truth of what Asito said. After all, it was the Shinigami who had disappeared for hundreds of years, so it was always right to be vigilant. But, feeling Asito's Ryotsu fluctuations, Yunohana Retsu nodded in satisfaction, no sign of lying. At the same time, Natsuki suddenly proposed. Aceto, now that you know what the Soul Society is up against, why don't you just follow us and return to the Soul Society? You can also increase your combat power. These words, naturally it wasn't just for the Karakura town battle. What's more, it is still to increase the combat power for the Millennium Bloody Battle 2 years later. At least, have an extra captain level combat power. It is also convenient for myself in the future, picking, genus, fish, sex. The voice fell. Alright, it's time to go back. Aceto froze for a moment, then nodded slightly. Although he is reluctant to give up his companions, but the Soul Society is facing such a crisis, of course he has to go back and contribute his strength. Simultaneously, Yunohana Retsu's eyes flickered slightly. Very pleased with this assist from Natsuki. She originally wanted to invite Aceto, but the other party has insisted on not returning to Soul Society for hundreds of years, so she opened the mouth, and it was inevitable that there was a sense of threat. Natsuki spoke differently. First of all, he is human, not from Soul Society. This invitation is purely a personal act of Natsuki, which makes her feel grateful. Hueco Mundo Desert Edge suddenly, at a broken wall, more than a dozen bodies jumped out. Looking at the endless desert in front of them, many people fell silent, but Long Gui looked around curiously. Is this the real Hueco Mundo? I thought the forest of Manos Grande just now was desolate enough, but I didn't expect it to be even more desolate outside. Everyone look at that palace, this is our goal. It's really big, we rushed over, I don't know how long it will take. Listening to the emotions of the people, Natsuki sensed a Ryotsu attacking quickly. Subconsciously, the doctor turned to Yunohana Retsu, Zaraki Kenpachi, Byakuya Kuchiki, and Kuretsuchi Mayuri several districts. Sure enough, the facial expressions of these people have changed. Obviously, the captains of them also sensed the enemy's attack. Next moment, boom, accompanied by a rush of violent sand. A monstrous mass of gravel formed, that heavy momentum came crushing towards everyone without any warning. Instantly, everyone is dumbfounded. What the hell, there are monsters made of sand in Hueco Mundo. Boom. The pale gravel keeps gathering. In just a few seconds, it condensed into a huge monster. With a height of 30 meters, he exudes a strong sense of oppression, which makes people shudder. At this time, its eyes are on everyone. Especially the deadly domineering costumes on the group of people made them react. You are dressed like Shinigami. It's unforgivable that a mere Shinigami appeared in Hueco Mundo. Let me, the gatekeeper, Nunaganga, turn all of you into white sand in this desert. Wen Yan, Zaraki Kenpachi this quickie, walking out of the team, looking at the behemoth in front of him, he grinned and said. The gatekeeper? It's ridiculous. If you can keep it, then try it. Base. Zaraki Kenpachi instantly appeared in midair. Raise your Zanpakuto in your hand, and Nunaganga will slash away. Boom. The golden Ryotsu converge in Zanpakuto. In an instant, Nunaganga hit his feet from the top of his head, and was split in two. HMPH, this is the end, it's so boring, fall back to the ground. Turning around and looking at Nunaganga who was split by himself, Zaraki Kenpachi spat to the side in boredom. But, just at this moment, suddenly, the gravel on the ground is surging. Gathering towards Nunaganga's wound, it returned to its original appearance in just one breath. What's happening here? Zaraki Kenpachi narrowed his eyes slightly, and there was some doubt in his voice. As if he felt that he had an illusion, he tapped his foot, and the whole person appeared in the air again, and he raised his knife to chop. But the result is the same as before. The scars are replenished by the surrounding gravel. I see. Kuretsuchi Mayuri saw this, and the corners of his mouth split open. Well, it really cracked open and exposed a big yellow tooth. Its body is made of sand. Ordinary physical attacks, even if they cause damage, can restore themselves by replenishing the surrounding sand. Just took a look. He saw the reason why Nunaganga was not dead. The physics department's attack is invalid, it's really boring. After hearing this, Zaraki Kenpachi walked back into the crowd annoyed. He is a purely physics-based attack player. Faced with such an enemy, it is simply a waste of time. Obviously, he thought of that too. In order not to be disgusted any longer, Tiantian gave up the fight neatly. But Zaraki Kenpachi withdrew, and the rest of the people were a little embarrassed. After all, almost all of the people present were Zanpakuto from the Department of Physics. Only Yunohana Retsu, Kuretsuchi Mayuri are Keto family Zanpakuto. Although Ayasagawa Yumachika is a Kido Zanpakuto, but he is only willing to use the semi-liberation state, everyone thinks he is also a physical Zanpakuto. And at this moment, Natsuki didn't want to waste time. Prepare to use Hiranmaru's power directly, drop Naganga. Base. Zanpakuto unsheathed. With a thought, a thin layer of frost slowly appeared on the knife. But at this moment, Kuretsuchi Mayuri, who was standing in front of Natsuki, moved a step faster, and saw an injection suddenly pop out from his split mouth. Hold it in your hand. Flicked the ampule bottle with my nails. It caused the light blue unknown potion inside to shake, then looked at Nunaganga and said with a smile. Physical attacks cannot kill you. Then use the spirit particle antidote to change the composition of your spirit particles. I don't know what you will look like. The voice fell. Everyone looked at Kuretsuchi Mayuri in unison. I was a little curious as to what the effect of his so-called anti-spiritual agent was. Spiritia reverse potion. Nunaganga repeated for no reason. But it couldn't figure out what it was, so it just gave up and punched Kuretsuchi Mayuri with a fist. However, in the face of incoming attacks, Kuretsuchi Mayuri did not rush, and raised the hand holding the Reishi reverse agent. Yay. That's why I don't like communicating with scum like you. Boom. Nunaganga's fist strikes directly. But the first thing it hit with this punch was the spirit reverse potion in the hands of Kuretsuchi Mayuri. Moment, the body fell into rigidity directly. It's completely gone before that flexible look. Kai. The spiritual antidote was injected into Nunaganga's fist, and spread all over his body in an instant. Instantly, Nunaganga's Ryotsu changes. Cutting, Ryotsu is constantly shrinking and becoming weaker, and at the same time, his body is gradually shrinking. Soon from the previous height of 30 meters, the incarnation is about 3 meters tall. Although it is still a little taller than ordinary people, it is far less than before. But most attention-grabbing. But at the same time that Nunaganga became smaller, the gravel body gradually became solid, until finally it became an Urankar figure. Watching this scene, suddenly, everyone present was stunned again. This becomes Urankar. It's amazing, a body that was so big just now became smaller in a few seconds. As expected of the captain of the 12th Division, he found a solution to this Sandman so easily, at the same time. Kuretsuchi Mayuri stroked his chin with his hand. Looking at Nunaganga, the expression on his face became more and more pervert. I see. You were just an Urankar. But after a certain change, the body turns into gravel, and has the ability to resurrect infinitely with the help of gravel. This is a good research material, but unfortunately, it is now abolished. And at this moment, seeing himself change into his previous appearance, Nunaganga panicked. He was completely panicked, the means of rebirth disappeared, he was just an ordinary Manos Grande, how could he beat this group of Shinigami? Think of this, he suddenly had an idea, and quickly said. Surrender, I choose to surrender. But he forgot that there was a man who was played by his ability before. So. I saw an afterimage passing through the air. PFF'd. A head fell from the air and fell into the sand, and that unwilling face looked at the person who came. Cut. I thought it was amazing. It turned out that I couldn't even catch a knife, trash. The voice fell, the person who came raised his foot and stomped hard on the head. Bang. Like the sound of watermelon bursting, suddenly sounded. Suya Palace, it's still the same palace. But this time, it was the Espadas who opened the door and entered the palace one by one. In the team, the newly promoted Ruby Espada grinned flamboyantly and said. Nah. I heard that there seems to be an intruder, so Aizen called us over for a meeting. Holly Bell paused, turning to look at the new number 5, said coldly. Newcomer, it's Master Aizen, remember it. While speaking, she directly released the Ryotsu in her body and forced it away. In an instant, Ruby, who was only at the Ajuka's level, froze and responded blankly. I know. Hear this, Holly Bell just retrieved the released Ryotsu. Coincidentally, the moment Ryotsu was withdrawn, a group of people just came to the conference table and sat down in order according to their ranking. Suddenly, the door just opened slowly. This attracted everyone's attention, subconsciously looked over. I saw Aizen walked in through the door. Ichimaru Jin is like a loyal follower, following closely behind. But this time it was different. I saw that Rukia also changed into the white quiet night outfit representing the Aizen forces, and silently followed behind her. Enter the room. Aizen was stared at by a group of Urankar, his expression remained the same. There was no sign of nervousness at all, and even facing the gazes of the Arankars, he greeted gently. Good evening, thousands of pictures. Immediately afterwards, he revealed the purpose of convening everyone this time. There is an enemy attack. But when everyone's breath changes slightly, Aizen suddenly turned around and said, "But before that, let's have a cup of black tea first." Moment of effort. There is a home-style Irankar carrying brewed black tea. Pour a cup of black tea in front of each Irankar, and even pour a cup. Seeing this scene, only then did Aizen support his chin with one hand, and looked at everyone with piercing eyes. Everyone has got it. Then, listen to me while drinking tea. Talking room. Eyes turned to Ichimaru Jin. Silver, play the video. Okay, Master Aizen. Ichimaru Jin responded with a chuckle, and manipulated the machine to play the video. As his movements fell, a clear picture was projected on both sides of the conference table. Screen. It's Natsuki and his team, after coming out of the forest of Manos Grande, encounter the screen of Nuni Ganga. Moment. Standing beside Aizen, Rukia's pupils trembled. Natsuki. And Big Brother, Captain Unohana, Captain Zaraki, Captain Country. There are so many people coming to Hueco Mundo, as this. For me? It's not worth it. The Soul Society should accumulate strength. But, obviously no, this is wrong. Rukia's eyes were shining with excitement. As everyone knows, all her actions are under Aizen's perception. Kuchiki. Rukia, seeing my lover and relatives rescue me, how deeply moved my heart is. Then, when they die because of you, the guilt and regret that ensues is huge, you know? But, compared to Rukia, the Arankars in front of us are even more interesting. Thinking of this, Aizen looked at Arankar again, and said with a gentle smile. There are a lot of intruders this time, but there are only a few worth noting. Natsuki, Unohana Retsu, Byakuya Kuchiki, Zaraki Kenpachi, Kuretsuchi Mayuri and Kurosaki Ichigo. These 6 people are the main objects of attention, please don't relax your vigilance. The voice fell, he gave the crowd time to react. He picked up the black tea in front of him, took a sip and tasted it. The Espadas saw this. Seriously observe the image in front of you. Although only Kuretsuchi Mayuri and Zaraki Kenpachi shot, it is enough to see the strength of this invader. Let's communicate. This is Captain Shinigami. Interesting. Actually dispatched 4 captains at once. The kid playing with ice seems to be absent. Hey, Holly Bell, it seems that your opponent is not here this time. Hey, is this going to attack Hueco Mundo? You have sent so many captains, so you're not afraid that they will all be here. See the communication gradually stop. Aizen put down the teacup in his hand. Just this action, everyone subconsciously looked at him. Everyone, it is taboo to underestimate the enemy. The former number 5 Neutra was killed by that Kurosaki Ichigo alone. If you are careless, maybe you will also fall into their hands. I don't want Espada, which has just stabilized, to experience a large reduction in staff again. Aizen Sosuke looked at everyone with deep eyes, and his strong leadership momentum burst out at this moment. Yes, Lord Aizen. There were still a few Espadas who underestimated the enemy. Breathing stopped suddenly, the eyes looking at the image changed slightly, and finally everything became serious. See several Espadas knocking back themselves. Aizen slowly withdrew his momentum, stood up, and glanced at the Arankars, but said in a warm voice. My lords, as you can see, the invaders are numerous. Although I said not to underestimate them, there is no need to take too many precautions. Each returns to his own palace and works normally together. These words make everyone focus on Aizen. Aizen was not disappointed, and under the expectant eyes of everyone, said softly. Don't be proud, don't be impatient. Just sit and wait for the enemy to come. No need to be afraid, no matter what happens, as long as you go forward with me, then there will be no enemies in front of us. Aizen's voice was very gentle, but that gentle voice is full of confidence as always. This confidence made everyone present subconsciously believe that everything the man in front of him said was true. Find this moment, although Espada has different ideas, but throwing away the restrictions of race, the eyes of Aizen are full of conviction. Aizen Sosuke. Just relying on the charm of his personality, he has the qualifications to call himself emperor, which makes people unconsciously want to bow his head and call himself a vassal.